All right, hey there, fellow coder. Welcome to this next installment in our series where we are building a real-world web app from scratch utilizing React on the front end and Java as a server on the back end with MySQL as well eventually. In this lesson, we're going to be diving into some of the front-end topics regarding picking a CSS framework to work with and implementing the first little bits of it inside of our React end of our application. So if that is of interest to you, if you want to learn about CSS frameworks, why you would choose a particular one, and how to start using it in your front end, stick around. All right, fellow coders, thanks for sticking around. Let's get into the good stuff. So the first thing that I've done here, as you can see, is I've started a Google on top CSS frameworks, which at the time of the recording of this in 2022, these are some of the ones that are recommended just, from Google. Now, there's obviously a bunch more, and this is sort of what you want to do. I'm trying to make this an evergreen type video where, no matter when you're watching it, these are the steps that you would go through to sort of make your best educated guess as to which CSS framework you want to choose. So, first of all, if you don't know what a CSS framework is, CSS is all about making your application look pretty. That's really what it's all about. It's about making it look appealing, visually appealing, so that when a prospective user logs in or uses your application, they don't look at it and go, oh, this thing looks like it's from the 1990s or something. So CSS frameworks empower you with a much more seamless, a much more productive way to create CSS. Because if you had to create CSS on your own from scratch, it takes a lot of work. So what you can do with a framework is you can leverage other people's code and leverage other people's hard work to be able to, utilize it in your own environment, your own project, to be able to get up and running very quickly. Okay, it's kind of like using a Spring framework or Spring Boot or something in the world of Java, if you're familiar with those frameworks. So, utilizing other people's code to make our lives easier as developers is what a framework is all about, and CSS frameworks are no exception to that rule. So, basically, here are the top 5, and what I do is I look at the top frameworks, and since I'm like, you always have to ask yourself, what are we solving for? What is the purpose of why I'm learning this stuff? Typically speaking, you are solving for getting a job. You're learning this stuff most likely because you want to get a job, or you want to advance your current career. Maybe you're already working as a developer. You want to add a skill set to your career to make you more appealing to a broader set of jobs. Okay, so what I do is I go to Indeed. I type in remote, because a lot of the jobs these days are remote, or you can type in your local city here if you like. And I start typing in the names of the frameworks. Now, this one's a bit special. If I type in Bootstrap and say find jobs, you'll get a count on the number of jobs. Now, the word Bootstrap might be utilized in job types that you wouldn't want. Like, you could scroll through and sort of see, are these all developer jobs? And they actually look like developer jobs, so this is actually probably pretty good. But you want to make sure that the thing that you're typing in doesn't give a hit for something that's completely not related to the thing that you're looking for, right? So, maybe if someone posted with the word bootstrap, but they were saying, I want to bootstrap a new company and I'm looking for a co-founder or something, that would not be probably related to what you're looking for. So you might want to put in CSS as well. And when you say CSS and say find jobs, then they drop by half. So that might be one way to make sure that, look, I really want to make sure I'm just looking at jobs that relate to my CSS stuff. So that's one tip. So you can see maybe 1,200 jobs for remote. Then you do the same thing for the next one, Tailwind CSS. So 1,200 is the current winner. This one has 186. So really, it's not used a lot in the real world. Although it has some steam behind it, it's picking up steam and being more and more popular, really doesn't give you a lot of job opportunities currently as of the recording of this video. Same thing for like Foundation. If you type in Foundation CSS, what's this one? So 1,400. That's slightly better than Bootstrap. Cool. What about Bulma? I've never heard of that one, but hey, let's type in Bulma CSS and see if it has a bunch of jobs. It has 10, so maybe not the best one. What about skeleton CSS? No jobs at all. So really it's between, from this top CSS list, it's between Bootstrap and Foundation. So those are that's what I go through in order to figure out which one I'd want to choose. And because Bootstrap is at the top of the list and I have knowledge with Bootstrap and Bootstrap works with React, that is the one that we are going to choose today, which is why, if you notice my browser tabs, I already have React Bootstrap opened up. So that's my reasoning behind why I'm selecting Bootstrap, okay? Cool. So now if you just skip through and you're just getting to this part, let's talk about, installing Bootstrap. So to do that, thankfully, they have a nice introduction here on how to do that. Now note that I typed in, how I got to this page was I typed in React Bootstrap in Google. Okay, and then that brought me to react-bootstrap.github.com, which brought me to this page, and it has a nice getting started section in this page. Okay, so that's how I got here in the first place. So first, we can use npm to install Bootstrap. Cool, let's do that. So let's go to our VS Code editor. In the terminal, make sure you are pointed to the right folder. We are looking at the assignment submission app front end. That is our app. I'm going to paste in by right-clicking my npm install command, and I'm going to hit enter and allow it to install. We'll see how long it takes. So hopefully it doesn't take too long. It looks like it's going pretty quick, and hopefully there's no errors. It doesn't look like there's any errors. There's a vulnerability, but I don't want to get into, fixing high vulnerability issues and whatnot. That's sort of out of scope at the moment. We want to talk about Bootstrap. Now, importing components, this is now how you would leverage some of the Bootstrap stuff inside of React, inside of your IDE, inside of VS Code. So this is how you would import a button and start to potentially use a button. And then we have some, we provide React Bootstrap JS and min.js bundles with all components exported on window.react bootstrap object. These bundles are available on blah, blah, blah. I think this is just another way to install it potentially. Since we've done npm install, we should be good on that end, but we will see. And you can sort of go through and learn about some stuff about Bootstrap, but really I want to just dive right in. And I think, components. So components here, this section of the documentation is really where a lot of the magic will happen. These are all the different types of components that you can use in your app, okay? And there's not too many, right? From alerts down to toasts, there's really not a whole lot of components, so it's not too overwhelming. And we'll get into some of the popular ones, like, for example, buttons. This is how you create a button, and those are obviously a very important and very highly used component in terms of web apps. So we'll probably start there. Let's flip over to our front end here, our VS Code, and say npm start to fire up our application. And on the web server side, or on the which is called Java side, let me also fire up the Java code by right-clicking on our application file and saying run as Spring Boot app. Bring it up. And then we will go to our, what's this called? Browser. Bring up React, or bring up VS Code on the left, or on the right. No, on the left. And then the, what's this called? Browser on the right. So if we go to like something, for example, like the login page, I think we have a login page. As you can see, this needs a lot of TLC. It needs a lot of tender love and care. It doesn't look very good. So how can we bootstrapify? Is that the terminology that the cool kids use these days? How do you bootstrapify this page so that it looks better? Well, the first thing we do is let's go to our login page. So login index, I just happen to be pointing to it. What's the word? Serendipitously? Anyway, let's stop using big words. And let's bring in Bootstrap. So how do we do that? Let's take a look at some of our, where is it? Here. I don't want buttons anymore. I want to talk about, what is it called? I forget the name of it. Alerts, accordion badge, breadcrumb buttons. I essentially want like a container. Do they not have containers in here? Overlays, popovers, utilities. Let me make this slightly bigger so I can see the, there we go, ratio. Oh, layout. Here we go, layout. container. So first is you need to understand how their layout system works. I'll explain that in a moment. But really, when you want to start to bring Bootstrap into your code, you want to wrap everything in a container. And I'll show you what happens when we do that. So at this level, we will wrap everything in a container object. Okay, and I will bring all of my code up into that. So I'm gonna hit Alt and then up arrow again. So I just moved all my selected code up into the container, and then we need to import the container. So Control Space to bring up the quick suggest tab, and I'm going to click on the React Bootstrap container. What that does is it just puts in this line of code at the top. That's all the Control Space and then clicking on it did, is just does the import of the container. So now let me go back to my assignment and say save. Compiling. Ooh, it's taking a while. There we go. So we brought the container in. I thought that was going to do something in terms of centering it, but I guess it did not center it. I was expecting it to center it, but maybe that's because we need to have stuff in rows as well. So row capital R comes from React Bootstrap, and I'll explain about rows and columns in a moment. Column. So for now, we'll put everything in one column, and again, Control Space to import it from React Bootstrap. And we'll put the username stuff, Alt up, and tab it over into that row and column. And then the next row is the password row. So again, we'll create a row and column for the password. Paste and close the row and bring the div up into the column, tab it over. And then the submit button, again, is in its own row as well, like this. So we'll bring in the row, and then bring the div up into the row and column, save, and there we go. Now, it doesn't seem like it's doing what I anticipated it would do, which is a little odd. I would have expected it to format things slightly differently, but let's change one more thing. Let's change this button element to be the React. Let me just refresh and see if it does anything. No. So let me change the button here, B-U-T-T, to use capital B instead of lowercase b. So that makes a difference because we can import this from React Bootstrap. So you see now it's not happy because it's not a capital B, capital button. So yeah, it's not actually, it doesn't seem like it's working here. So something else is going on. I did reboot the server. We are modifying login. Okay. This is what happens with demos. As you're doing it live, I don't prepare for these things. I probably have forgotten to do some sort of... It's like, it looks like, what's this called? Bootstrap is not being utilized at all. So perhaps I missed a step in the intro. So we did npm install. We've done our import to import stuff like a button and whatnot. At the top, you'll see our imports are here. We're importing stuff from React Bootstrap. I don't believe we need to bring in this script stuff because we've already done that by doing an npm install and styling it and whatnot. We might need to, we might need to import Bootstrap like this. That is probably what we're missing. So it says the following line can be included in your source index.js or app.js file. So if we go to our app.js file and open that up, we can import Bootstrap like so and hit enter or hit save. And then let's see if that changed. Ah, there we go. So that was the missing step. See, you know, it is what it is. I missed that step. The not acronym, the abbreviation that applies to here is RTFM. If you don't know what RTFM means, Google it. So now that we brought in the CSS, how and which Bootstrap styles you include is up to you, but the simplest way is to include the latest from the styles from the CDN. Now, I believe we've already got the styles in, right? We've imported the CSS. I believe these styles are already brought in. There's more about Sass and customizing it and whatnot, and advanced usage and whatnot. But now we've got the basics of Bootstrap in, and as you can see, it's changed the look and feel of our application. If I remove or comment out this import and save it, it's going to go back to what it used to look like, right? If I bring the import back in and save it, you'll see the changes. right? So the text box has got a little bigger. The button itself, as you can see, turned blue, and it sort of makes it changes its appearance slightly when I hover over it now, that kind of thing. So we're starting to bring in the Bootstrap look and feel to our application. Now, how do we make this look slightly better? Let's go back to the components area and go to the buttons tab, if you will. And in here, it talks about how to change the look of our buttons. So if you wanted to make it a different color, we could change it by adding different variants. So right now, the default variant it's using is the primary variant, which is why it looks blue with white text. If we wanted to make it look gray or green, we would use different variants, okay? Now, I'm okay with what it looks like, but let's just, for the sake of argument, change the look and feel of this button so I can demonstrate what it looks like. So where's our button? Down here, button. So you'd put in variant equals, and then we could put something like success. So if we do that and save, it turns green, okay? Or you can do secondary and save, and it'll turn gray. Or you can put it to primary like this, and it turns back to blue, or you can not include primary at all, and it'll just default to being blue, okay? So again, that's how you can sort of change the look and feel of the button if you wish. Now, the layout here is a bit cramped. So the username is right up against the text box, and the password's right up against there. So how can we make that look a little better? Well, that is back in the layout. There is something called grid. And this is sort of how you can start to do it. And as you can see, we've got row and column, and they talk about the rows and columns and how you can lay them out. But even more so, beyond this, there's something called forms, and this is sort of what we are working with is a form. And if you look at the forms example, it shows you a really good example of what we are doing. This is exactly what we are trying to achieve with our current page. This is sort of like a login page. So if you wanted to, you can sort of copy paste their entire code here. But let's keep scrolling and see if there's any other variations on the form that look better. So talking about, disabled stuff, but that is sort of their first example of forms. Now you can go and look at form control. So form controls give textual form controls like input and text areas, and upgrade with custom styles, sizing, focus states, and more. So you see when you focus on it, it gives it that blue halo around it. So there's some neat things that you can do here with form controls, and obviously the beauty is in the eye of the beholder here. So it's up to you in terms of how you want your stuff to look and feel. So it gives you sort of a very big, broad, utility library to play with, right? So I kind of like the default. Back to the overview, this sort of default email address, whatever, is nice. So how you do this is you have a form with a capital F, important because that's a form that comes from, Bootstrap. So we can wrap, if we want, this whole thing in a form, although I don't think we have to wrap the whole thing in a form because we don't want it to be submitted like a form. So I believe we just want to use form group. Okay, and let me just see if this works. So basically you want to wrap all of your single line of inputs in a form group. So essentially the label and the text box is wrapped in a form group. Okay, so the label is here, and the text below it that you see here, and the input that you see here is all wrapped in a form group. So you are grouping together stuff for a form in sort of one row, if you will. So that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to say, no, actually don't even use form, or rows and columns. I don't know if that's on purpose. I guess we'll see. If we get rid of our rows and columns and paste in the form group thing, let's see if that looks nice. So we open the form group, and then we close the form group. Right? Now it's saying, oh, I don't know what this is, so we control space to import it. So it doesn't know what form is. That's annoying. Let's do form like this to see if we can hack it to import the form. No, it doesn't know. Okay, so basically form comes from, Bootstrap. So how do I'd have to go up here, and can I do comma form? Yeah. Does that solve our problem? Okay, so you have to import form manually. My goodness. So we have the form group, and then form label, form control, and then optionally form text. So I just really care about the label, and control is the word they use for like the inputs. So we don't need a div anymore in here. We can get rid of our div, because that's sort of, the div is part of the styling that we were trying to do before, but now we are using Bootstrap to do all this for us. And instead of label, as you can see, it's called form label now. So we're going to augment our label to be a form dot label with a capital L. And then we can close it over here like so. Oh, and then the HTML4 username, do they have it in here? Oh, I see control ID is the thing that they use. Control form basic email. So they don't have, can I say for like this? That's a for loop. Do I say HTML4? I forget what Bootstrap uses. Let's try HTML4 and put it in here, although I don't think that that's what it is called, but let's see what happens if I save it. If I go in here, it didn't seem like it changes, although when I click on it, that HTML4 seems like it's working, right? When I click on username, it seems like it works there. Oh, right, I forgot to do the input. So the input also needs to be changed and upgraded, augmented to form.control. So instead of input, it's form.control. Okay, and this one is a self-closing tag. Type equals blah, so we have type equals email. Placeholder, you can put a placeholder in there if you like, so I guess we can do that. And this is sort of like, you know, joe@gmail.com or whatever would be the placeholder. Save that, and let's go back to the look and the feel. Ooh, look at that. That looks a little bit different. So we've got our entire, below it, right? And which is exactly what we see in this example, right? The label, so to speak, is up top, and then the input element is below it. So cool. And then I think we can make it large, right? Is there a way to, if you go to form control, there's a way to make the sizing large. So you can use size on form control. So size LG. Okay, so for form control, but I kind of want to do that for the text, right? So the text here, how do we make the text larger? Let's see if we can do that for the form label. Do we have a size? Let's see, size LG. Let's go and save it. No, see, that didn't do anything for the size of the, so I guess that's a different, you'd have to look, you have to Google how to make it bigger, because that's kind of small. We'll do that later, but then let's grab the same concept of form group and apply it down here with the next one, right? So instead of row and column, form group, get rid of row and column that I started with. We'll talk about that, I guess, in another video. These things always go long. And then we don't need our div, so we can delete our div, because that's just kind of noise at this point, I should say. And let's augment this to a form label with a capital L. Your case sensitivity is important. And then input is called form.control. And the placeholder we can add is sort of, you know, I guess there is no placeholder for an input or a password. It wouldn't really make sense to have an, well, maybe, let's see. If we put placeholder there and say, you know, enter your password. Let's see, does that actually, oh, it actually gives a, oh, placeholder. There. So password here, you know, I don't know. Type in your password. Okay, so there we go. So now it's looking a little bit nicer, right? It's a little bit more, I don't. It's a lot more appealing to the eye. It's not perfect by any means. It's still pretty boring, but it is leaps and bounds better than we were before. Now for the button, we can maybe make this one have a large size. Size equals LG, and you see that increases size of the button. And we can even do the same thing for the controls, right? Size equals LG. Maybe you want to make everything just big, right? So now, boom, these things get bigger. Now, obviously, I would like the text to be bigger as well. We'd have to, again, Google how to do that. I know a simple way to do it would be to just add in our own custom inline styling. So we can say style equals, and we can say, you know, font size or whatever, right? Font size is, you know, 2 EM or something, and that will make it much bigger. But that's kind of, you know, if you can get away from using custom styling like this, then you probably should. So if there's a class that you can override or leverage, it's probably better to use a class or some sort of other, you know, built-in function, built-in property or attribute that comes from React. I don't see any React suggestions in here. Let's see. Is there any React suggestions? No. You'd probably want to leverage React or class, you know, custom classes that are built into React instead of doing all the inline styling yourself. In any case, it's a start, and you know what? Let's just Google it. That'll be the last thing we do. This is a long video. Again, I'm trying my best to make them not long, but I also want to give good value in each one of these videos. So let's say React increase font size of I should say React Bootstrap increase font size of labels. React Bootstrap component font size, blah, 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 blah. To change the font size of all text in your project, use star font size equals whatever. Alternatively, you can pass style to a component. In other words, it's saying to do exactly what I was saying. If we can avoid, let's avoid it. Let's look at text in Bootstrap version 5. So there's a way to align text, wrapping and overflow, word break, transformation, font size. Ah, here we go. Class FS1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, let's try this FS1 class. I don't know if that works with our React Bootstrap library, but let's try that for our font sizes. So for the label, we can add a class, class name equals, and then FS1. Ah, there we go. So FS1, FS2, 3, 4. 4 kind of feels nice. So there we go. Again, without having a custom style or whatever that we've had to apply, you're leveraging someone else's code, right? We just FS4 is sort of a predetermined font size that, you know, it's just better. It's a better practice to do that. And then for the password, we'll do the same thing. So form label for the password, we'll do class name equals fs-4. There we go. Now the final thing is it'd be nice if there's a bit more room above our form here, and we can actually do that in the container. So the container, we can have a class name of margin top, and then you can choose a size. So margin top 1, if I hit save, just nudges down a little bit. Margin top 2, a little bit more. 3, a little bit more. 4, a little bit more. And 5, quite a bit more. Now, I don't think there's a 6. Is there a 6? No. So 5 is sort of the biggest you can get. So that sort of, you know, gives you some margin from the top. And I think that's decent enough. That looks like a, you know, login type form that is decent. Maybe you could put a little bit more space between the login button and the password. So for the password group down here, or even the row that we've assigned to the button, we can maybe put the class name here of margin top 2, maybe, just to give. Oh, that didn't work. Row margin top 2. Did that not? Can we not do that for a row? That's odd. I would have expected it to move down. This is the beauty that is CSS. Let me get rid of the div and see if that makes a difference. No. So I guess it's on the column. Oh, it's on the column. Interesting. Usually I do it on the row and it's fine. I don't know why, for whatever reason, that didn't work there. Let me do 2 instead of 3. That looks better, right? That looks sort of uniform. And there we go. So that's how you can sort of play around with the look and feel with Bootstrap. And again, with Bootstrap, what's nice is if you make it big or you make it small, it sort of should look decently nice. And you can tweak it. Like big, if it's really big like this, This is probably way too long, so you can sort of cap the size of that, but we'll talk about that maybe in the next lesson, and how you can use rows and columns to lay out this stuff so that it looks one way on desktop and then another way on mobile. So in the next lesson, that's what we'll dive into. Looking forward to seeing you there. Thanks for checking out this video. If you haven't already, click above to subscribe to the channel to get notified, obviously by clicking the notification bell as well when the next lesson goes live. If you haven't done it, please do. And if you haven't given this video a like, please do give it a like. If you enjoy this content, if you feel that I've delivered value to you and earned it, please do give the video a like. Obviously, YouTube algorithm, blah, 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 you know the drill by now. So thanks for spending time with me today. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care of yourself. Happy learning, and bye for now.